You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. So we spent a good bit of time over the last couple of weeks here rejoicing as Alabama continues to watch its program burn. And with 30 players that have entered the transfer portal, one of the most common questions I've gotten from LSU fans is, hey, if there's all these Alabama players in the portal, why isn't LSU targeting them? And it's a good question. It's a fair question. And I think there's a layered response. The easy answer is they are, and they have. And there's two in particular I'm going to talk about here in just a quick second that LSU missed out on over the weekend. So we're going to talk about that. But I think what probably has to be kept in mind most is something we talked about last week, if you remember. We went through my very unofficial roster count. So if you consider, when you look at LSU's roster, players they have returning, players they've added via the portal, the high school class they just signed in December, the potentially players they are going to sign in the February signing period, my very unofficial roster count has LSU at 90. Remember, you can only have 85. Now, you don't have to be down to 85 until fall camp. So there's going to be more attrition. So LSU's not going to add players that are projects. They're not going to add just to add. If they add a player at this point, it's someone who is going to be an immediate impact guy, a starter at a position of need. That's what they're going to be looking for. So I think you look at players that have hit the portal and say, okay, well, who's available? You could look at, Caden Proctor, Alabama's left tackle who went in the portal. Well, LSU doesn't need a left tackle. You got Will Campbell. So Caden Proctor goes to Iowa. Caleb Downs, all-America caliber safety who's going to Ohio State. Pretty clear that Ohio State, with all the chatter surrounding them, is they've been pretty heavy in the NIL space here in this portal season. Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs, there will be more. So you look at Isaiah Bond, great receiver. LSU doesn't really need a receiver. So who are you going to target? Well, LSU did target 2 Alabama cornerbacks that went into the portal. And this weekend, both players made their announcements, and neither picked LSU. And I want to get into why a little bit and where that leaves LSU. One is Trey Amos. And this is one that made sense because Trey Amos is a Louisiana kid. Played for 3 years at ULL and then transferred to Alabama. Well, this weekend, he committed to Ole Miss. So he'll go play for Lane in his final season here. So again, from Louisiana, went to ULL, played for 3 seasons, played a lot for 3 seasons at ULL. Then this last year, as a transfer into Alabama, played in all 14 games that he participated in, but was really just a rotational guy. He had 12 tackles on the season. So it's not like Trey Amos was a no-doubt, slam-dunk, number 1 starting corner. It's not to say he couldn't play, and it's not to say he wouldn't be a better option than the guys LSU has. But I don't think that's a no-brainer. So Trey Amos goes in the portal. LSU did target him, but ultimately he's leaving Bama and he's going to Ole Miss. The other is Jameer Grimsley. And Jameer Grimsley is interesting because LSU recruited him out of high school. He's out of Tampa. He just signed with Alabama in December. So similar to Julian Sayin, how we laughed about that, the 5-star quarterback. So Jameer Grimsley signs with Alabama in December. He was an early enrollee, so he went through bowl practice with them before the Rose Bowl. Couldn't play, but practiced. And then Nick Saban announces his retirement. Grimsley goes into the portal. And one of the teams that was his finalists, in coming out of high school, was Florida. Of course, he was being recruited by Corey Raymond, so the thought was, well, Corey's now in Baton Rouge. Could LSU get him? Ultimately, kid's from Tampa. He's committed now to Florida. So you didn't get Grimsley either. And I know there's probably a tendency to say to hem haw, but I don't know that either one of those guys are the guys that necessarily you're looking at saying that's the player that's going to reshape our team. one of the things that I do often say is actions speak louder than words. I know I say that a lot, but I think it's a tenet to live by. Watch what someone does, not what they say. In LSU continuing to pursue cornerbacks in the transfer portal, I think does illustrate where they feel like they have a really sincere need right there at cornerback. But I look at what LSU has at corner right now, and I don't know that I necessarily believe that any player that is available right now is a better option than who LSU has. Here's what I mean. If I look at who LSU has coming back at corner, you were bad last year. We all know that. And hopefully it's going to change with a better scheme and staff and all that stuff, but just talent, right? Well, J.K. Johnson, who transferred in last year from Ohio State, suffered a leg injury in fall camp and didn't play at all. He's going to be healthy. You'll get an opportunity, presumably, to see what J.K. Johnson can do. You signed J.R. Brown from Ohio State out of the transfer portal already, and you've got Zy Alexander, who really was your best cornerback this past year. Tore his ACL on the last play of the first half against Army, missed the rest of the season. He'll have to rehab it and see if he's good to go or when he might be good to go for next year. So while, yes, Zy Alexander, J.K. Johnson, two guys that you could be counting on, are both coming off of significant injuries, and you don't know how good they're going to be, are available and presumably being better options. So J.K. Johnson, Zy Alexander, Jair Brown, those three guys I think are a good starting point and are probably better options than Amos or true freshman Jameer Grimsley. After that, you've got guys that played a lot this year out of necessity. Ashton Stamps, who we found out after the season, played through an injury this year. Might he make a leap year one to year two? Javian Toviano, Jeremiah Hughes, Ryan Robinson. I guess Sage Ryan could still play corner if you need. The point is, I mean, you got 8 cornerbacks. Like, you have a lot of bodies there. And I think your first 3 are really good, and we'll see if any of those freshmen step up. And that's not even counting the incoming guys. The 2 incoming freshmen you have, which makes 10 cornerbacks. So your numbers at corner are really good, and you're probably going to have more attrition at that position after spring. But really, I think the question comes down to, is there anybody available in the portal right now that is a better option than the guys that you have? And I don't know that you do. I don't believe that's the option. I'm looking right now at the On3 transfer portal, and if you look at the players, just looking at cornerbacks in the portal and who's available, I mean, you can pull this up, Paulie. I mean, Seth Robertson from Georgia Southern, he's undecided. I mean, just look through the list of the undecided cornerbacks. Jordan Shaw, sophomore from Arizona, undecided. Hunter Sellers from New Mexico is undecided. The best name in the portal at cornerback that's undecided right now is Jabbar Muhammad. So Jabbar Muhammad is a guy who was with Kalen DeBoer at Washington this past year, was a starting cornerback for him, jumped in the portal after DeBoer left, and I think it's logical to think that Jabbar Muhammad is probably going to end up with his former coach there in Tuscaloosa. I mean, that makes the most sense if it does go that way, and we'll see how it all plays out, but maybe you throw your hat in the ring on Jabbar Muhammad, and we'll see how that all plays out. But either way, I think the point being, if you're wondering why LSU hasn't been more aggressive right now, number one, they're heavy on numbers, and as a result, they're really only going to be targeting starting caliber players at positions of need. You're not taking guys that are luxuries anymore. You're taking guys that are going to help you win day one. And unless and until someone like that goes in the portal, you're probably not going to take him. So it might be something where we watch it after spring when the next portal window opens, when you start to sort of see how starting jobs and competition may shake out at other places, or maybe LSU decides they got to go be aggressive with NIL money to pluck someone away. But however it may play out, that's pretty clear where LSU is looking. It's going to be corner and defensive tackle, but it's got to be starting caliber players that make you better the day they step on campus. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.